Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're now moving into closed session.
Mary, can I ask a question real quick? Because you originally said aye on the approval of minutes, but then you had made a comment that you were part of the public, so do I need to retract yours? Or
No,
are you still aye?
Yeah,
Still-
I can
okay.
vote because I'm on the council now, but I was here,
Okay.
so I,
I just want to make sure, I'm like, what am I supposed to do?
no,
Okay.
You were here and I wasn't.
that's right.
Thanks for stepping up to the plate too. Right?
Eric's got a handful of things that will go over all the issues.
Do you want to go over your property acquisition?
So this morning I got a call from the county, and with regards to the light at section, or 189 and 3000 South, we were not, as a council, notified properly from UDOT. It was told in a meeting that they were going to do it, and that's what they said that their notice was, which is kind of interesting. But they've been kind of working with the county, and the county called me today and says, we have just this little strip there. It's your intersection with Charleston. We'll just quick claim the deed over to you. And I says, I don't see why we wouldn't want to have that, because that's going to be our intersection. And so that's the document that they sent me today.
Okay.
And so, is there a reason why we would or would not want to accept that?
Do you know where it's located?
Right? There, yeah, it's right down,
So
well, between the road. It's the,
Will you draw a little picture?
We like,
I'll confuse you.
Eric knows I couldn't draw. I just, on the phone call, like,
You said UDOT called you?
it would have been
County.
Brandon.
So-
Brandon Clough.
Yeah, Brandon.
Oh, okay.
So just a history, quick history on that corner of 3000. This is, you can either, this is just the corner of 3000, Highway 40, okay?
Uh-huh.
The county, this used to come to a point, the county put a fence right here and bought this little piece of property. They purchased that property from the Ellis subdivision.
Yep.
This is the property that we're talking about. That's on that.
So you don't went to them, they, it's Daniel's intersection for the most part. The phone call came in and they will just deed, a quick claim deed that to you, and that's it.
So, yeah, when I first heard this, I thought they were actually, we own to the middle of the road here, and then when we get up here, it's across the road into Daniel. And I thought they were trying to give us this one. Because the county, the Don Robertson piece is here, and then the county's here. And so, standard is, we go to the middle of the road. That's usually what the county surveyor requires as you annex property. And so I thought that they were trying to give us this so they didn't necessarily have to participate in this 189. Or, yeah, the 189.
So do you know why they owned that in the first place?
Yes, because the trucks couldn't make this turn, so they went to Ellis's, chopped that off and actually got fee title to it, so they could make that. We as a town will probably have to increase this, because of the way that the Charleston hooked up there across the road. There's several people that'll come down and turn, and they actually get on the wrong side of that curve.
Yeah.
I did it.
It's kind of,
I've
it's
almost
kind of
done
offset.
it. I've almost done
And
it.
so
Erased.
yeah, and so then you get into that curve and you really can't tell until you're, so I think that we may end up pushing this back a little bit more. The town of Daniel sign sits right here right now, and I think we'll end up pushing this fence back maybe a little bit, get some property, maybe acquiring some property from Mr. Wyatt, and making ours so that it lines up.
It seems like there's been increased accidents there
There
since
ha-
that's gone in.
There has been, and all, this thing goes down to that new school, and so you have all that traffic.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
geez.
Yeah.
And so it has been a nightmare for Charleston, with traffic, with slow sides, with everything they're doing down there. That school's really impacted them.
I only run into a car going the wrong way about once a week.
Well, it's scary. I mean,
You guys make bets up in the window, okay, who's this one?
Yeah, well, there's a great view of exactly, I mean, you get to see, it's 4 or 5 cars a day that go down the wrong side. Most, honestly, the traffic's light enough most of the time. They do it, you can see them hit the brakes, realize what they did, and then just go really fast, and
You're hosed because you're on the side of the
because
curve.
with that big median, there's nothing you can do, but
Yeah.
just, I mean, you either back out of the highway, which is a really bad idea,
Yeah.
or you just go and get past the median.
So I think that we'll end up adjusting our side. If you come up from the Charleston side, it doesn't look bad across there, but going the other way, it looks.
So we need a motion to accept this.
Yeah, you know, just for all in agreement that it will work best for the town, which I think it would. Yeah, I'll take a motion for that.
Yeah, we'll make a motion and we accept the,
Yeah, we come out of public hearing to do
Yes,
that.
we do.
oh,
You're
sorry,
right, you're right.
thank you.
So that'll be the property acquisition.
Okay.
So, yeah, after reading the actual thing, and I always thought we was talking about the road, and it's just that corner piece that Kent Berg had purchased from the L subdivision.
So does this help us in our design when we finally get to that meeting?
Yeah, well, we knew that we owned out to where the fence is already. We actually thought they turned that over when we became a town. So it was
So the
done.
sign's there.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, there will be no harm in that one at all.
So now we'll own the property the sign is on?
Yes, yes, now we'll
Well,
have
welcome
to,
to Daniel not being on Daniel.
now we're gonna have to get a permit.
We won't get sued over it.
Great sign. Okay,
Okay, we have a couple of items that I want you aware of. Brad Fabrizio property, we were talking about, there was some talk about sewer hookups and water hookups. They have a current water hookup. There is not a sewer hookup, at least on the books. So we have a gentleman that's purchasing that property who thinks that he does have a hookup. The council will have to make that decision. That will be an issue. Mr. Fabrizio is very behind on his bill. He has since caught that up. So they're current on their water bill and continue the monthly payments. So I don't think we have a big issue with continuing that service, but the sewer hookup may be another, something that and
What was it you put to for?
so this is the Fabrizio lot, if you just want to look at that, it's lot 25.
pass it down.
And so it's just right inside the town, second lot in, and right next to Lisa Dinga there, so yeah, I put the names on that.
On the front of the road.
Yeah. And so the back of their lot's up against the hillside. And I know Ryan and me had to talk about it, and you want to address the council, Ryan?
I can, I think that we concluded would be easy is, with the water bill, for example, he's been paying or current with the water bill, and so I think it's a fairly easy argument that the water meter's there, he's paying the water service, he has water. If he had been doing the same with the sewer, I think we could make a similar argument, that there was a house that had sewer, the house went away, he continued to pay the bill, he can have sewer again, if he hooks up a future house, it would just be a continuation of that service. What I just heard Eric say is there's no record of him paying a sewer bill, which I think makes it harder.
Very hard.
So
But allegedly, I guess there was a house there before, which, presumably would have been hooked to the sewer system. Because it wouldn't have had its own septic system on that lot.
But there's no house there now.
Right. So it was a trailer that was removed. And so, part of me is conflicted because, had it been our system, had our books been perfect, I think it would have been easy to say, look, this is what happened. Where we inherited books that are less than perfect, I think it becomes far more complicated.
So no one lives there? I mean,
No, it's a vacant lot right now, so it was a trailer, they tore the trailer down or hauled it off or removed it, so it's a vacant lot, or has been for the last few years. Until they fixed the water and that they came current and they continue to pay the monthly water bill for that lot. But we have no record of them paying a sewer connection, and so somebody's looking at buying the lot, and the question is, does that lot have access to water and sewer? And if they don't, if there's no record of them ever paying a sewer bill, and we're trying to not expand the system, it's part of the platted subdivision. I think there's a legitimate argument that it was, when that septic field was created, it was platted for that lot, to include that lot. So I don't know that the state would yell at us, but our intent is to not be making that sewer system any bigger with all the problems it's got.
Do you know if this house, theoretically, would this house be before the clog?
It would be downstream of the current problem. But that doesn't,
No,
I have no idea what the next problem is.
Right.
what, would it be, how to say it, advantageous to, well, no, there's no hookups until we have this actually improved?
We could, I mean, that would be the moratorium, is that we can't allow any more connections there because it's failing as it is. And, I mean, we have
Yeah, because it's
evidence that that's the case.
insult to injury.
At the same time, when the other discussion we had is it's a half-acre lot, 0.46, something like that.
It's just under.
It's a fairly small lot in the middle of the subdivision. If we say no sewer, and it's basically an undevelopable lot, what, you know, is that better? What does that become? And I know in a grand scheme, you know, legal non-conforming uses ultimately become conforming. It seems like kind of a pipe dream, since we're in a closed meeting, to think that Storm Haven's ever gonna conform.
Is there any technology that allows a septic system on
Where
less
it's,
than half acre?
where it's opposite the stream, it's possible, but I find it, on less than half an acre, I find it very unlikely.
Well, what's the future of this area? What are we gonna do?
There's a $1 million question.
You like asking hard questions. I have a couple plans, all of them.
He turned me down flat on me turning it back over to the county.
Turn it back.
In hindsight, you know, maybe we voted the wrong way, but.
We should have done it for a year.
No, it took 4 years.
I mean,
4
let it
years.
pass, just to get through there.
Oh.
We've-
So,
good
do
question.
we have a plan? Do we have a plan? I mean,
Yes.
here's what I'm getting at.
So-
If we're not going to be able to do anything, wouldn't we be doing everyone a service to sell them that they're gonna have to come up with,
So,
even if it's more money?
I would say a year ago, but probably 3 years ago, I gave a presentation when we last raised the water rate, the water and sewer rates, and I went over different options we had and what the costs were. And it included changing the tanks from a septic tank into a wet well, and then pumping it up and ultimately piping it to Twin Creeks.
Twin Creeks, yeah.
It included everybody getting their own system, and it included some low-pressure systems, and, you know, there was 3 or 4 options. So yes, we've looked at that. All of them raised the sewer bill up in the order of $150 to $200 a month. And obviously, that was not a well-received message.
No, that's tough.
As Independence, you know, if anything ever happens at Independence, the sewer line will continue to go up that road. For better or worse, it's gonna happen. And that will reduce the cost of that lift station idea. And so if we can hang on a little longer with the septic system the way we've got it, and Independence installs that sewer line, or development installs that sewer line, whether it be in Daniel or Independence, that cost goes down, and at some point, I think that becomes more affordable as that we put in that lift station in one, you know, but there's 3 or 4 different ways to do that lift station, but we do something like that, and then that becomes a sustainable system.
That's the plan I remember.
And that's really the only one I can come up with that's reasonable.
That's a good plan.
It is
I
a
know.
good plan, but it's future.
Tracy called me, when I presented all the options and one included the, you know, get your own septic system, Tracy called me and was very concerned and came over and he explained that there's a lot of lots in there that it won't happen. That, you know, they currently have a house, but because of the proximity to the stream and the size of the lot, even, you know, the best available technology, he can't permit a system.
Even if you do like a pre-treated, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
so
and so there are some really cool
questions.
pre-treatment systems, drip systems that are far more effective and do a much better job of creating really good quality water before you discharge it. They can be put on a lot less than 5 acres now. But even those best systems, those small lots right next to the stream, his comment was basically, you know, don't tie my hands and tell, I mean, you know, what do you want me to do? If you're saying that's the only option, I feel obligated to permit them, but they don't meet the, you know, you're putting us in a really hard spot. And all I was pointing out, I mean, my intent wasn't to make everyone do that. It was, look, here's all the options, and if you can see, this one isn't a very good one.
I find this particularly frustrating when we can't do anything at the corner of Daniel Road and 3000 South. We won't do anything with that area, you know, the trailer park. I find it terribly frustrating that they're holding these people and won't.
So you do know that this,
Let's discuss that one in a second.
yeah.
I'm sorry?
That's
discuss
on the
that here in a
list.
second.
Okay.
That one's on the.
Oh, good, okay, cool.
So anyway, yes, I have a long-range plan for the sewer in Storm Haven, but
But
I,
it's
that's,
mostly Twin Creeks.
but,
That would be the best.
I would say 4 of the 5 options involve Twin Creeks,
Are
That's the
these,
best option,
and
yeah.
it is by far the best option.
And I do know that, you know, years ago, they weren't too interested in accepting it, and right now, they're probably got a different point of view.
I think the relationship between I think Twin Creeks would accept it. I mean, obviously there's fees and whatnot, but I think we could make that happen politically. Politically, I think it's just a couple $1 million worth of work. And if we weren't a couple million short, it would be a project for the spring.
I think, when we have our public meeting on this, that this stuff needs to be brought up, and here's the options, and here's the cost, what do you want to do?
Well, we did that last time. That was what we gave them, was all them options, and they didn't. I mean,
Took the bottom one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't want to do
Take
anything.
one.
of course,
Pick one,
I don't
but,
blame them,
but the thing is here's your,
The answer
here's your deal.
historically has been, shouldn't the town help us out? And why can't the town fund that?
And that's
Yeah.
why we want to show them all the things the town has already done,
And I-
continues to do.
I'm not advocating that
I know,
position,
I
just
know,
that that's
I know.
what I hear. Every time
I
we've had one of these
understand.
hearings, that's what I hear. And
Yeah.
every time I talk to somebody about we need to raise the rates, I hear our rates are high enough, somebody else needs to help us out. And,
I know, I understand.
I mean, I pointed out when the, you know,
Well-
when the water tank was built and we built the new pump station, how much did you pay? You know, exactly, you know, nothing. So that's what they want to pay to help you out.
And I think we ought to bring up, you know, if they were on their own septic tanks, which they can't be,
Some of them could
you've got this kind of expense.
be. I mean, some of them could be, but I mean, we're all on our own septic tank, and if anyone thinks it's free,
No,
next year, you might be in for a big surprise.
and see, and we don't really wanna push 10 of those on their own, because now we have 8 on this system. Now divide that pumping by 8 instead of 18, it starts getting very pricey. And
Good
so,
point, Eric.
it's kind of a weird deal. But I get these calls all the time, and I just don't know how to direct these people trying to do their due diligence,
Yeah.
looking at these lots. It's got water and sewer. I don't know if it does.
My last
Well,
discussion with
you've
Gary
got a
with regard to
problem.
that is, once we touch that line, that's a project, that whole line. So it's not a fix in what we'll be dealing with every 6 months, that fix is not just fixable, it's like the whole line.
And that's where we've talked to the CDBG grant, or a portion of the CDBG grant, can we just replace that line? Because, I mean, ultimately, all those Twin Creek solutions involve replacing the collection network. I mean, they do.
Yeah.
Because nothing up there is gonna work, so all of that's gonna go, just like ultimately the water system is gonna be replaced.
Good?
So,
Well, do the houses on either side of this one lot, are they already on that system?
Yes.
Okay, well, I know that, I've heard that the dingoes go RVing and they dump their sewer.
There's a lot of people that do that, and that was passed out, this is a really good way to screw up the system. And
Right,
you-
yeah.
You see the RVs hooked up to the sewer cleanouts or right next to the sewer cleanouts when you drive through any day of the week.
Either go down and pay the
Yeah.
$20 or $15 to dump it,
Yeah.
or
You
you
can
wanna
dump it there for
pay,
free.
you wanna pay, an extra
Free.
$500 a month for your sewer connection fee.
well, I mean, if they're not putting that stuff in their RV, then it's okay to dump it in. It's when they
Yeah.
put that antibiotic in it
Yeah,
that kills your good bacteria, that's where you get the problem.
Well,
Yeah.
As the owner of an RV and a septic tank, I can tell you I go pay the $10.
Absolutely.
So do I.
Absolutely.
Because it's way cheaper.
Well, that's gotta stop though, I mean, that kind of stuff is just,
Well,
unless they wanna make,
The napkins and the other trash and everything else, it's the same problem. I mean, the sewer backup's not, the pipe has failed, it's a mess. The backup's occurring not because of the municipal,
Grease.
the hazardous, it's because of all the other crap that shouldn't be in there and never should, shouldn't be, even in, big wastewater treatment plants, they shouldn't be in there, but they are.
I know.
The big treatment plants have screens and other things that we catch it and put it in the dumpster, and it's still a problem.
if this point is brought up where we had our our public meeting before, and we explicitly, you know, let them know that, you know, you can't be putting these other things in in the line that's blowing it up. So at this point, we're just about left with no alternative other than to raise the rate substantially to cover these expenses, because that's the only way out of
It's
this.
to cover the cost, but I also think we need to be looking at a capital replacement fee fund, because we're gonna need, if we can get a grant, that's great, but the line's gonna need to get replaced whether I can find a grant or not.
And that's what's,
And
And that
if
grant
we can't, it's, I don't know, $100,000? I mean, it's deep and it's 1,500 feet long. So I mean, making up numbers, but we spent $100,000 on a water line that was 5 feet deep and not quite as long. So it seems like it's easily a $100,000 project.
yeah. And as individuals are, might come in, it's just like the water. CUP comes in and said they shut us down on our individual well permits. Now we've got to hook up on the town municipal, and all of a sudden we're gonna come up with $20,000-$30,000.
A lot of scenarios out there.
It's the same thing. What do we do? Well, you can't do that to us, you know? No. The reality is, if they don't comply with these different things and not be thrown in the RV sewage in there along with the other things.
It's the RV sewage in the garbage.
In the
And
garbage,
really,
and
honestly,
it's-
the RV sewage isn't the I mean, the RV sewage at least flows, and right now the problem we've got is just physical clogging, which is the garbage. The RV is screwing up the, you know, screws up the bugs in the drain field,
Mhm.
and that one's gonna manifest itself, hopefully, and not for years, but when it does, the whole drain field's gonna fail, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
really ugly.
Gotta be.
So that's why all these things will come up in the public hearing, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And especially I don't know what the oddest or biggest or worst part of garbage in there, but boy, if we can sure give a list of all the things that, Gary, I know's looked in there and it's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But list them out, let them
Have some
present it. Hey,
pictures.
this is the reality.
I haven't seen
Here it is.
I
It's
haven't-
not-
Do we have some pictures?
I don't know.
On the
I wasn't-
manhole
on the
cover,
last one, I
that's
didn't
all
go up, so I mean,
paper all
I don't know if I've seen, I don't know that we have any
Pictures,
pictures.
just be.
Well, the pictures,
I could find-
you don't get the pictures because they just pump out the tank,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I can
Everything that
find,
makes it down there just gets sucked up in the truck,
well,
and then they run the jet up the line.
if anybody is not too concerned about which sewer line it is, I have plenty of pictures of sewer lines that are plugged, they just happen to not be terminated. But it's the same
Well,
stuff.
this is the kind of thing, this is what's
But-
happening, and
I
they
think
need to
some
present
visual
it that
aids
way.
might be helpful.
Well, so I mean, we can just,
I
as
ain't
long as we
coming
don't
to
say
this
they're
meeting.
from Stormhaven, I
Right.
have plenty of pictures.
Say,
of
here's
that.
Very
Just
similar to
examples.
Stormhaven.
Here's some examples
It's
of
not
other
pretty,
lines that are the similar problems.
That.
it's not pretty, I'm not coming to this meeting.
No, it's gonna be ugly, that's the thing.
Yeah,
But I think the visual, like you said, I mean, it's gonna get the point to them, it's like, this is what's happening in your system, you're all, or whoever's participating in the system. The rates are going up because of what you're seeing here in these pictures, it's a good way to justify the discussion for sure.
We had this discussion a year ago, and it's,
I gotta tell you, they don't care about their neighbors up there, they don't.
No, you're right.
They're out of water, and the guys are watering their lawns at the bottom, the top ones have no drinking water, they don't care. I got water, I'm watering my lawn, and it's just like, my gosh, are you serious?
And speaking of that, you know, we've also talked about, you know, making that whole system culinary, and yes, they might use it on their lawns, but the whole system before it blows up is a culinary system, and it really shouldn't be the whole garden and yards and everything, and I don't know how we deal with that. We've done it through rates, but it hasn't stopped anything.
No, but that is another discussion, is how to avoid the points that are coming for the inadequate storage. And if I run the numbers, it looks to me like if we only had indoor use, if there was no irrigation, the tank we have, albeit not very good, as long as it holds water and physically could pump into the system, we just hope it never does, would be enough to keep us far enough down on the point schedule that we wouldn't get in too much trouble for at least a little while. But what happens is it's based on peak day, and we have those, you know, July and August days where they crank up the water, and based on those peak days, our tank is woefully inadequate.
Yeah, last July, we ran 1 million gallons through that system.
So is there no way to implement days that they can water or not water and
Well,
save people?
what we're talking about there is no outside watering, period. This is for culinary use only, and that's the designation on the water. We can't stop them from watering outside. The way that you do that is with the rate schedule. So if the gallons go down, they have the number there, what is it, 300 gallons a day per person in the house?
Yeah.
And so they have all that figured out. You can do that figure, but that's where it starts getting expensive, so it's.
But how do other entities actually impose that and actually cite people for?
They use our code enforcement staff to drive around and monitor.
You're not supposed to be watering your lawn. No.
Yeah, and you can do odd and even if you wanted to. The problem with that is, if you go to odd and even, everybody on the odd day is gonna water and everybody on the even day is gonna water.
There's gonna be no.
Well, if
They
your
will
address
water.
is an odd, if your address is an odd address, you water on odd days. If your address is an even, you water on even, so.
Right, but what I'm saying is they will water, even if they wasn't going to,
Even if their
they will,
neighbor's
because
out
they
of
know
water.
they're off the next day. Anytime you do a restriction, they take as much as they can
It's
get.
the same
on
thing
that.
with irrigation turns, even if it's the middle of a thunderstorm, people go out there and turn on the water, because damn it, it's my turn.
True.
So,
So the other thing is we need somebody to enforce it, and we don't have, I mean, Park City does that, and they have, you know, a dozen code enforcement officers that run around and write citations. Who's gonna write the citation?
we could hire one of them.
I will.
Okay, well, I mean, I just,
People the
I
worst.
mean, you know, if we're gonna implement that, it needs to be enforceable, and that's gonna require somebody to drive around and witness the problem and write tickets, knock on doors and write the tickets. And if we don't do that, then it's, you know, it's not.
We're gonna have to hire a couple of guards to stand behind you to.
A lot of these other
Yeah.
small
It's a
towns will have like
situation.
a deputy or a Heber City cop or whatever,
Right.
like, is that something worth looking into, to do
Oh, I'm
enforcement?
sorry.
I've told them, when we was having so much problems up there, I kept reminding them, this is culinary, for culinary use. This is in your house. And you know what they told me? They would rather pay the extra and water their lawn and do whatever.
Well, then it's not
That's-
enough.
Exactly. This has a different mindset up there, and it's really, really hard to
No.
deal with.
Speaking,
Because all those people I was here and they sat there and said it was, oh, this is just too expensive, we can't afford all of this.
but then I
Good,
could
so
shut
don't
off.
have
But then
it,
they're-
we won't have it.
Yeah. they
But,
just don't
but
have
they're
the
getting
water.
$500 and $600 and $800 water bills
Whoa.
during a month.
It's true.
And they pay
And
it.
they pay it
Oh,
because they want
then they-
to
then they
run
can
their
afford
water.
it.
And their theory is Daniel took over the town, took over the water, so it's Daniel's water. It's your
I-
guys'
I
problem.
remember that
Yeah,
all of
so-
Daniel should take care of their
Yeah.
sewer, I remember all that.
So just be forewarned.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, well.
It's just a different, but I do think giving them all the ideas and the visual aids, but I don't know if they're gonna,
Ideas that I really don't like, but we're in a closed meeting, let's throw them out there, are forming a special service district and letting them have their own board. Let them figure it out. If they don't like our answer,
We
they'll
talked
figure it
about
out.
that before.
Wow.
You can get your own board of 5 people, and you know, you're still, the town's still gotta be the governing board.
Right.
But they form their own solutions and figure it out themselves.
Oh,
Hire their own engineer.
oh. Oh,
What are you saying, Eric, or Ryan?
what do you
know
want
what?
out?
That's not a bad idea.
Not a
No,
bad
that's
idea at all.
not
We're gonna
sound
talk
like a
about
bad
that.
idea. What are the
I know they're
negatives, what are the
expensive.
drawbacks?
Aren't they the special
For us
service
as
control
a
board?
town.
It's another, yeah, not a control board, it's another level of bureaucracy.
It is.
It is, yeah. And,
I mean,
And they can pay themselves all kinds of fees for their services and then not provide them?
It's a
Oh.
benefit for them to be in the town because of the things the town can do for them, grants and all of those loans and things that the town could qualify for. But yes, we talked about a special service district way back when.
Maybe we ought to bring that up again.
well, you could maybe go one step shorter than that and not actually form the special service district, but just have them form a board where they come and report monthly on what their plan is. Because right now, they come and they complain and they tell us to fix it. Maybe, there needs to be a board where they come and tell us, here's our problems and here's what we wanna do. And
Well, that
where
out
we
in
need your
public
help.
meeting too, we need to.
That's
And so here's,
Yeah.
form a board of 3 to 5 people where you come to us with solutions, not just complaining when your water's off, because we knew the water was off, we were doing everything we possibly could. And I didn't need to hear it again, I'm sorry, sorry your water's off, go tell your neighbor who's watering 50 gallons a minute to shut their sprinkler off, hot water.
Yeah,
But, we went up, just in that 1 year, we went through 1 million gallons last July.
Yep.
And we've gone through 600,000 the year before, which was equally dry. So, we almost doubled the water use in a year just because a few people moved in that felt like watering more. And arguably, we had the one valve that was broken, but I
It'll
can't
be
believe
worse
that was the
next
whole
year.
problem.
Because now they have full pressure.
now you got the one neighbor that,
Right,
now, to clue you in, you got one neighbor that complained, or up there that complained, it used to be my neighbor that complained that the township paid that. During one of the water meetings, he brought up the fact, well, if you take an airline and run it backwards on that meter, you can run that meter backwards. So that might be something to look at.
If they do, that'll show up in the readings. So that was the backflow we mentioned earlier. We monitor every connection. Every time we do a reading, one of the things the meters report on is if there was any backflow. And one of the problems we have in Storm Haven is there's a lot of it.
There's a lot of air hoses back there.
Well, so my point isn't to add another, put more flames on the fire, but just that the system is working. When a meter flows backwards, we get the alert, we see the problem. And Kim and Gary chased it around for years, and I think we finally got it down to a small number, and we said, we're gonna just call that solved for now, knowing that future construction projects will make it better. And so to answer your question, if you blow air through it, yes, it will work, but we'll know it.
okay.
What about Fabrizio?
Can you find, they think there's a connection? Is there any evidence on the property that there might have been a connection?
There's a water meter outside the fence,
Right, and they've
And
been
they're
paying a
paying
water
water.
bill,
and he's paying more.
but as far as a sewer connection and or sewer clean out.
There's nothing on our records that the town has that he's ever had sewer.
So he had a trailer, but
Yeah.
So I'll have to have an RV tank that he can dump in the
There's
sewer
what, 18
system.
out of 52, is there 52 there?
I can't remember, something like that.
52 or 54.
Yeah,
So 18 of them are on the sewer system, the rest are not, so very well could have had a septic on there, I don't know. It's, what do we say that well was?
well, this was never supposed to be a year-round subdivision.
Right.
This was a trailer park is what it was for seasonal use.
Yeah,
That's all it
Paper
was.
Joe here.
well, I have the tax paper here. So, yeah, so the acreage is .45. And so he bought that lot, I actually have the warranty deed in 2006,
Yeah,
February of
it's
2006.
Fabrizio.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Brad and Terry Fabrizio. So, I've pulled up a lot of stuff off the county, trying to see what's there, what is. I really thought somebody had done an illegal subdivide because I counted 3 houses, but when I went back and actually investigated it, there's a shed out back that has a stove in it. And so it's just a shed in the back of the neighbor's lot in lot 26.
And they were just using it for livestock or something like that.
Well, Fabrizio used his for livestock, and we got complaints from some of the neighbors.
Dina, for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
that the horses was looking in our window.
Yeah.
So-
I took those calls too.
Yeah.
That's a horse.
They're looking in your window? Really?
Yes,
It was like,
they're
I don't
telling me
mean
they
to
want that,
sound
aspartame.
Close the
terrible, but, yeah, that was my what are you doing in there? And pull the curtains. If you can entertain a horse, that's pretty crazy. Okay, so, I don't know, the water thing, I think,
Okay. All that stuff should.
what I'm hearing is the water is a different thing than the sewer. From the council, is that what you're saying?
I would say so. I don't wanna see that,
Yeah.
we've had so much, we're just holding our breath on that septic system and if there's a way that we can certainly understand why we would not want it to hook up and justify that, I would like to go that route. If it's not, then it isn't.
Let the ones that
One more
wanna
question.
keep screwing the system up, be responsible to clean it up,
Well, and
because
again,
it's their own deal.
well, and down there, he's gonna say, that's not us, it's up above us, clearly.
That's what I think the board,
I
made
like
up
the
of 3 to
idea
5
of the
people,
board.
people that
That's a
live up
great
there.
I think it's
Because
fabulous.
I've talked to Casey, I mean, he's got it narrowed down to 1 or 2 people that could be dumping all that stuff. I'm like, well, go pick, go talk to them, figure it out.
Put them on the board.
But I can't do anything about it, all I can, I mean, all I can do is say there's a problem, here's the bill, and it's 19 connections, I mean, that's all we can do at the town level, if you know who it is, go stop them.
So another thing on this lot, the setbacks are the same as an RA5 zone. So you got 12 foot, or you could go down to 10 on one side, but the sum of 2 side setbacks has to be 24 feet. So, that's a pretty skinny lot, and that's gonna be hard to do when I give them the setbacks. He's like, it's already approved subdivision, I don't have to do that. I'm like, no, you still have to meet the setbacks. So the lot area is what's waived. 822 on our code is the code that deals with recorded subdivisions. So it's a little bit different than what we have down the road on a lot. Recorded subdivisions have their own piece of code that requires different things. So they're actually a little bit more grandfathered in, if you would say, than just a lot.
What is that lot width, I can't remember, sorry, it's like,
It's on that paper there.
well, no, it's 0.45 acres, but I can't remember what the frontage was and how wide it was, it's not very wide.
80,
80 feet,
88, I
80
think.
feet, so minus 24, so, I mean, still there's roughly 55 per house.
Because there's this 20%, 28.
Anybody can make it work, depending on what they want.
No, it's not 12, I mean, it's big enough for, you can do it, but it's gonna be a fairly small, fairly narrow house, but.
Yeah, and that was the second question, is there a size square footage requirement? And I was like, well, you do brush up against the 20% of the lot, so
Yeah, but with the setbacks, I'll have this 20% most likely.
most likely.
But we did have a minimum, don't we, because sorry, codes are all scrambled.
I don't think we have a minimum.
I thought we had a minimum to prevent tiny houses.
Yes, there is a minimum, there's not a maximum,
Right.
right? There is a minimum.
But there was a minimum square footage, so he can't pull in a 300 square foot tiny home and say that's.
That's my house.
That might be the answer. A tiny home.
Those are
We don't want
8 foot
that
wide.
camel nose.
Then they'll have a bigger garden, water.
That might be the answer, tiny home on that lot. Anyway, this guy that's looking at it, he is a executive of AirMed.
What?
AirMed. So helicopter AirMed.
The
My
concern.
flight,
We've got a lot more desirable properties than that.
Yeah,
for him,
right,
right?
come down.
Really?
So the problem I have
I
is,
think,
it isn't the guy who's looking, because this guy's doing a lot of homework, he's doing his due diligence, and eventually he's
Yes, yeah.
gonna walk away. And somebody else is gonna buy it blind and show up, and they're gonna be really pissed when we give them the same answer. And so I think it's important that we decide what our answer is now.
Right.
And so it has nothing to do with you, this was decided, and 3 other people that came to ask this property, these are the answers we gave them. If you didn't ask, we didn't know to contact you. It's also, because we've gotten in trouble before, just between some people calling Eric and some people calling myself, they're doing their due diligence, we need to have exactly the same answer for everybody. Because otherwise, one person gets told yes, one person gets told no, and all of a sudden we're interfering with who bought the house and who didn't. And we've never done that intentionally, but, Eric answers a question one way and I answered another if we're not exactly on the
yeah,
same
be
page.
consistent. So do you have a recommendation, or are you just leaving it up to this group?
I don't have a recommendation. I can see the value of saying no, because the system's already failing, we've already got problems. I can see the value of saying 19's, but, dividing the cost by 19's to 18's one better. It probably already had I believe it probably had a septic connection at one point when that trailer was there. I can't, if it had a septic tank, it wasn't a legal septic tank. So it should have been connected to the system, but wasn't. And I do worry if we leave the lot vacant, are we really doing anybody a service? I mean, like I said, the idea if we say no, eventually it will revert back and become a 5 acre lot and start to conform. I don't see that subdivision, you know, Crazy Acres and Tammany Lane, maybe. I don't see that portion of Storm Haven ever coming into the RA5 conformance. And so, do we say yes to the water and sewer so that it becomes a house and is nicer and helps improve the neighborhood and raise tax value and pays the fees and now helps us with our money to fix the problems? Or do we say no and keep the system smaller?
Let me ask you, so in your opinion, one more hookup would do zero difference? I mean,
It's the snowflake effect. So yes, I mean, every snowflake helps or hurts, or helps, depending on how you look at it.
See, I don't,
Um,
Ryan's good with numbers, he's not gonna say it has no effect.
It's good with words, a snowflake, the analogy, it's good.
It's close enough to the tank. I don't see a lot of effect on the drain, on the collection network, just because it's not, that particular connection is not gonna utilize the majority of the collection network. So we're talking about the septic tank and the drain field.
just a yearly clean out or
And-
whatever.
And so it's, yeah, so to that extent, it's the yearly clean out and it's a little more water in the drain field.
Well, it bothers me that both sides are already connected and that one would not be. So I think, my opinion would be, as a prospective buyer, I would want to be hooked in, but I'd also want the warning about what the system
Yeah.
is doing and how much the potential costs could be.
So more off the wall ideas, what if we
Tell them to
require,
come to that
so,
meeting.
well, if it was a commercial connection, we would require, well, we wouldn't allow it. But if it was a real wastewater treatment plant, blah, 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 we would require an oil water separator. We're going through that with some other clients right now. Do we allow them to connect, but tell them they need to put in a trash tank? So when they flush their wipes and everything else, it doesn't get into our
Collects
system?
before it goes into the system.
So that would be a 1,000-gallon tank with a snout on it, or 500-gallon tank with a snout on it. So the wipes and the debris and the crap that is really screwing up our system would stay there, and we would just take the,
But then
The
they'd
normal
still
waste.
have to go into the
But it would
pool
be their
to fix
problem.
stuff, right?
well, they would have to have that sucked out.
Their own.
And the
Yeah,
frequency in
but-
which they would have to have it sucked out would depend on how much stuff they put down the drain. If they use the garbage disposal a lot, they'd have to clean it a lot.
Is that
It
fair?
would be much like all of us that have our own septic tank. The more crap you put down there, the better, the more often you better pump it.
Do
Would,
you feel comfortable going that direction?
Just throwing out really bad ideas to see what sticks.
And what's the cost on a system like that?
It wouldn't be much. A 500-gallon tank would be under $1,000.
would that be a possible option for the others?
Could we make everyone do that? So this guy, I think we can make do it because he's asking, does it have a connection? And we can say, yes, it does. Here's our new ordinance that says you have
Well-
to do this.
I mean, this could be an option to put out.
Do we make other people do? I don't know how we would make an existing connection install that until they were here asking for a new building permit or something.
Yeah, we'd almost have to do that as a town. If you-
So the town could go in and do that, and, I mean, I will say, maybe that's cheaper to go put in 19 of these little tanks than it is to dig up this main. The problem is, the main has to be dug up and replaced.
And
It's
in
failing, one of these days, it's going to fill in the rest of the way and stop working, whether there's towels in there or not, it's gonna stop. So the main's gotta get fixed. These boxes would just be a interim.
A Band-Aid for $20,000.
It would be a Band-Aid for $20,000. This guy, I'm saying, if it's a new house, this guy wants something, he wants a building permit. We can adopt a new standard that says we put these before every one of our public sewer connections in Survey. And you're responsible for it, and that way, if you dump way too much crap in it, it stays on your side of the fence, not ours. And it bubbles up on, you know, when septic bubbles up in your side of the lot, you find somebody on Christmas Day to come pump it.
Mhm.
I don't know that that works, I'm 99% certain, 90, maybe more, that we still get the phone call. But, so there's lots of ideas out there.
Does the council want to make a decision on it, or?
Well, tell me what to tell them.
The only idea that I saw everybody nod on was that they should form a committee and tell us what they want to do. And all these other ideas, I guess I can go to the meeting and give them ideas and costs, and give them all the bad news.
Let them choose.
Give them all the bad
Let
news.
them choose, I like that.
Or we still have to make a decision on the septic for sewer?
Right, for this Fabrizio.
A containment tank seems like that's kind of the middle of the road to help both sides, I don't know.
Well, I
That's something
mean,
that,
they may be really good tenants and never put anything down there they're not supposed to.
and they won't have that problem.
In which
with their
case I'd
tank
argue
then.
the little trash tank would stay clean.
Yeah, and they won't have to pay to have it sucked out. I went 18 years on mine.
Yeah, I just don't really want to worry, absolutely going down there because I have a problem, but
Yeah.
I get what we're talking about.
Well, if you take one more hookup, would be negligible amount.
I have no evidence to tell you that one more connection will tank the system. I mean, I can't,
Right. And it would spread the cost a little bit, a little bit.
and I think we're okay with the state, because when that was permitted, those were all the cabin sites it was originally permitted for. It's an ongoing, we're not expanding the use, which is what they would get really upset about.
And either side already is hooked up, so
Do you like the tank idea or just straight hook up and let it be?
I like the tank idea.
oh, you're asking me?
No, you're describing what you think, yeah.
I like it, but I just spent $700 on my on my septic system, and it's not fixed yet. So, I mean, I may have to replace the whole damn thing, so it's like thousands, we'll see, in the
Yes.
spring.
Judith or you know, they just had a septic tank dig up yesterday or last week.
We may have to do the same thing,
Yeah,
but
Judith
anyway.
just had got the blue stake on.
So it's, you know, that would be a negligible cost as far as I'm concerned to put that tank in, and that might be.
Is that a wrench that would cause an issue or problem or timing or that
No, I
seems
mean,
reasonable to me?
as far as construction, he's got a lot of other things to worry about. That wouldn't get in the way. That would just, wherever he ties onto the lateral, we put this box somewhere between his house and the main, and it would be his responsibility to take care of it. I can check with state code real quick just to make sure that having private tanks isn't an issue. I don't think it is, because in the commercial world, we make them do their own oil water separators, which are basically this, we're doing the same thing, which is, you know, you have garbage that we don't want in our system, so they call it pre-treatment, but you go take out, you know, you get it down to levels that we can deal with, and you do that on your own,
Right.
and we'll take the rest. We're kind of doing the same thing here, only instead of oil and grease, we're talking about, you know, garbage. Talking about baby wipes and paper towels, but it's the same concept.
I don't even believe we're talking about it. But
Oh,
But that's what gets thrown in there.
I believe it, it's amazing.
I know, it's crazy, but
Yeah,
What do you want to tell Eric then?
okay. I think that he should put in a tank to help it out until we get this solved.
So if there's evidence of a sewer on site, you think
Yeah, yeah.
we'll honor that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure he'll be coming to ask you. So,
So you just said if there's a hookup on site that he
if there's
finds-
evidence of a prior sewer hookup,
So they'll have to find the lateral that was probably left out.
yeah.
Probably not marked the way things go up there.
No.
But they can find it.
But yeah, you could still see where the trailer was sitting, so.
So they'll have to dig around and find it. Or not.
Or not, yeah.
That's his deal.
He did get it surveyed, and if you were standing in front of the house, about 10 foot into the bushes, right up through Lisa Dinga's property is the, so she lost about 10 feet of property that they've been using.
Does she know that yet?
Yeah, I'd ride orange steaks and, so. Anyway, that's just one of the crazy things. What do you do? Okay, while we're on personal, I got a application, we're not sure if we got paid yet. We need to check and see if this check has went through. Sherry's checking, I don't know if you've seen it. It would have come to you for $1,125 from this applicant for annexation of Highway 40.
For
Sorry, I was gonna call you.
us to annex them.
annexation.
I'm not aware of one.
I got the application, but I don't remember seeing a check. And Amelia doesn't remember seeing a check.
This is the other
So
side.
if I have an application, I would know if I have a check or not. But if I don't have an application, I definitely wouldn't have a check.
Well, I assume we would have either dropped off both or neither.
I think it's two long lots.
Well,
So,
that's what
yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
If I've got an application, I would know whether or not
Okay.
I've got a check. But because I document it,
Right,
so I wouldn't have a check without
okay.
the permit. So I'm just saying.
I heard wrong out there. And then we didn't hear from her.
Yeah, I wouldn't just have a check without the permit, because
Yeah.
I'm really funny, even when they bring the permits, if they don't have a permit number, you better get me one.
Right, because I'm
Good.
confused on that, because I helped them fill out that piece of paper. We calculated the fees, and I told them what they needed to
No, I
bring
do.
back.
I have a file for
So,
everyone.
I mean, I helped fill out that piece of paper, but I don't have any recollection of the check or all the other stuff I asked them to bring.
So they didn't.
And I don't have any
come back.
record of it, and so I'm just confirming that they didn't come to anybody else. and I
And you
meant to
checked
tell
with
you what
Sherry
they
earlier,
did.
right?
She's checking.
Oh, she's checking, okay.
And I just want to, just make sure that we either have a pending application or we don't. And that form is just something, like I said, I filled out with them, trying to help them. Here's the form, here's what you need, here's how big the check will be. But I don't know that it's ever come back officially. I don't think it has.
Well, you have to have a petition and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and that's
Map
what,
and-
that was the list of the map, the petition,
Yeah.
and I don't have any record of any of that.
Yeah, this is more of a just so you guys know what's coming. This would be the property, if this is 3,000 south, that's the Peterson property. He's purchased the second one, it'll be that third piece.
Is this the one you handed me on Saturday?
Yes.
Okay, no, this one does not.
Yes.
I
Okay.
will,
Yeah,
I will look.
I gave you a copy.
I don't, so
Well,
just
all
to
I
confirm,
knew
I
was
don't
when
think
you
they've come
brought
back.
this, you said that
Right.
this might be
So
coming
you met with
down,
them, went over the stuff.
but you didn't
Yeah,
tell
I
me
met with them, I
anything
told them
about
what they
the
needed to
money,
do,
so
they
I
were trying to
will-
apply for like
Yeah, I
two
met
different
with
grants,
Brian
they wanted
after.
commercial concept, preliminary plan, and annexation all at once, and I talked them back from that, I
Well,
said,
there's no
well,
date or nothing.
see if you get it
It's
annexed
signed.
first, because if you don't, the rest of these points are moot, so don't.
Right, why do they
Well,
want
then
to
I
try
would
to
have
annex,
just had
did
a
they
check
say?
for this recently, and I don't.
They
recall
wanted,
this at
well,
all.
they wanted to bring in the commercial
So
concept,
that's an out.
so that they could tell you everything they wanted to do, and kind of do one big, get annexed, zoned commercial, and get concept all in one meeting, so they can come back with building permit at the second meeting and blow and go and be ready to break ground any day.
I would check it, but that
And I
might,
told them they needed to take the step back, and we needed to annex first. And if they got annexed, it could be zone commercial, and during the annexation, they should bring in all the renderings about what they want to do and talk at length about what their plan is. But after the annexation is through, then we'll go to commercial concept, and if everybody's already familiar, I'm sure it'll fly right through, or not, but then, but we'll do that as separate steps, but let's do it chronologically, not try to combine things, because that just screws everything up.
Is this contiguous to Charleston too?
Yes.
So is this one of those
Well,
situations where they're playing us off against Charleston?
I wouldn't surprise me at all.
We've been there, done that.
Yeah.
You're right.
I
So
don't,
you probably should be aware, since we're in closed session, this big building right here, they can't, they will not issue COs on this till they get water. So even though that building's going in, they have to build a water tower or find another source of water.
so the annexation though, is not quite adjacent to Charleston yet, is it? Because
What's that?
there's a gap, Mike Peterson's new property is still a gap, isn't it?
Well, Mike Peterson owns the corner and he bought the second one.
Right,
So this is the third parcel that we're talking about
yeah,
here.
but this is in Charleston and this is not.
Right,
And then this is not adjacent to Charleston yet.
right, it's one away.
But Peterson's probably gonna annex that, right?
Oh.
Charleston?
Actually, he's
No?
Peterson keeps talking about annexing into Daniel. He's trying
talking
to get a
about
lot,
disconnecting.
he's trying to get a building permit for this lot approved before he files this petition, because he's afraid if he files this petition, he won't get his building permit.
Which, and this
Oh,
one,
I'm
this
so
one,
confused.
this one here,
It's okay.
this building here was at the
So
planning,
confused.
this one was at the planning commission in the last meeting.
Keeping track of rumors is a full-time job around here.
So, and the planning commission was very upset about this building. And when they saw this, they're just like, we don't want another cement building.
so is this your building, this one right
No,
here?
Ryan's is over here.
Yeah, so my building is next door.
So, we're gonna have the whole town of Charleston up there.
So this building will share a parking lot with this building, and it fixes the parking lot that is here.
Right.
This building has a big parking lot that comes around like this,
Yeah,
and it fixes this parking lot that doesn't really work, and doesn't have the parking. And then we've talked about moving, but that's a whole other issue.
Oh,
So
you
just
got
on that
flight
same
path?
note, where,
Actually, it's more in the flight path.
Oh, more in the flight path.
on that corner that we're talking about, this is the code that Mike Peterson's lawyers wrote, that Charleston adopted, the council and the mayor adopted, all this code
Just for
applies
him,
to that corner. All of this code,
just for him.
just for that project.
Wow.
That's just as a side note.
Okay.
Next.
Okay,
Next.
Okay, the next one we have is in Stormhaven Plat A. This would be, yeah, I really abused Ryan.
So we're back in Plat A, yeah.
Okay, you better clarify that.
Okay, so we're in Austin, so
Yeah, so now this one is,
Should we erase
So-
it?
no,
Yeah.
no,
this is now the port of entry.
Oh my
This
God.
road comes in,
yeah.
this, okay?
Full
This
Right.
parcel,
So Plat C,
oh, we're in Plat C?
sorry, thank you, yeah. Yeah, this is Plat,
No, I
A, B,
think
this is
it's A.
B. C is in the middle, because that's how I would have done it too, right?
Where's the propane place?
So the propane place would be down right here.
Okay,
That would be the
So is
propane.
this Crazy Acres?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Crazy Acres,
Crazy acres. Okay, the first parcel here is Morgan's parcel.
right?
Okay, there's a house here that's for sale. This parcel originally was 9 acres, let's say 9 acres. The dad died, the mom passed away
This one.
in 2011.
Yeah.
Gave a 1 acre lot here
Mhm.
to her son.
Right,
The
and they
steps?
built on it.
Stepson has this?
No.
No, this is actually where the garage is. Russell pulled a permit, Russell Morgan, that was his parents, pulled a permit to build this shop
Mhm.
on this 1 acre parcel. This was done in 2011, from what I can tell. The house is for sale. We got a complaint that they're living in the shop. Converted the workshop to a property residence, and there's 2 additions and 2 recreational vehicles parked on the property. So that was a complaint I got, that they were living in trailers on the property. I went out, the trailer is right here, it's plugged in, but there's nobody living in it, it's not skirted, there's no water, it's just plugged in. So there's nothing going on there. The problem is this piece is for sale, and we have an illegal lot that was created. Therefore, it gets deeper, therefore this is an illegal lot.
okay.
The whole lot is illegal.
Yes, both of them are illegal lots. This is just a court case, that's where we're gonna end up,
Why does it make the larger area?
because they recorded a lot on it without doing it legally. So that makes this lot illegal, there's a 9 acre,
It's not really 9 acres.
is not,
Which is now an 8
they're
acre.
selling 8 acres, illegal lot. You think about that and you think, well, it's got 5 acres, it's okay, but Brian pointed out, they're both illegal.
What's that doing?
Our recourse here is to go after the realtor. The realtor is supposed to know that. We can go after the realtor right now, then we get another realtor that does the same thing. We've seen it time and time again. So do you wait till they sell it, then do it? Hey, Ryan, your turn.
Wait, I don't agree with Eric on this. I want out, I think they're living in the garage. There was lights on, all that,
Is
but
there any sewer?
that's
There is
the other
bathroom.
thing, we don't think there's a sewer.
There is a sewer, they have a septic.
Oh, they do?
There is a bathroom in the garage.
And it is permitted as such.
Okay, good.
So the sewer doesn't work either then, if it's,
Well, the
if
health,
it's for the 9 acres. but
right, the
not
health
for-
department,
But not for.
the health
morning.
department gave them a septic system for a bathroom in that shop. It's a legal septic
So
system.
both the house and the garage are type of one septic though.
No, because of the distance, they applied for a separate septic system. So it's got its
Oh,
own
that
drain
makes it
field.
more
But
interesting.
because of.
But it's only sized, but it's sized as an accessory building,
Illegal.
so it's
It
not
is.
sized to live there. So if that became a house, the septic system would not be okay.
Oh, boy.
And it was based on being part of the 9 acres. So you can have, if you have 10 I mean, I have 10 acres, I can have 2 drain fields. I don't, but I could. And so that was the same way that was done.
What do you guys do in your spare time?
What do you do, Eric?
I
Just
just
sitting around, aren't you?
This is,
Oh, boy.
Okay,
Oh,
so that was Marcine and Sandra Morgan was his mom and dad. And from what I can gather, it is now in the Todd Hostler Trust, who is a stepson, that was her son. And the other one is his son,
Russell.
to cut the 1 acre. Yeah, it's Russell's brother.
Oh.
So, and then the one that owns it,